body's primary drive is not thinness, it's safety and survival. When the body is inflamed, when the gut barrier is compromised, when the liver is overburdened, when hormones are dysregulated because the systems that process and clear them are backed up, the body will be in a defense state. It's allocating resources towards management of perceived internal crisis. Fat storage in that context is not a character flaw. It's often a physiological strategy.
Welcome to Health Decoded, your number one source for real health information, with your hosts, Dr. Alessi and Matt Tack.
Health Decoded listeners, if you're dealing with bloating that just won't go away, no matter what you eat, no matter what you try, I need you to hear this. The bloating isn't the problem. It's a signal. Every external symptom you're experiencing, the discomfort, the fatigue, the frustration, has a root cause. And in my years of clinical practice, it almost always leads back to the gut. Nothing else in your body can fully heal until that foundation is restored. I built this framework from my own health journey. I was that patient, frustrated, dismissed, searching for answers. I took everything I learned, refined it through years of clinical testing, and have since helped hundreds of patients achieve complete relief from their symptoms. That became the Total Gut Reset, a step-by-step protocol with one goal: reset your gut in 6 months or less. If you're ready to learn exactly what's causing your symptoms and eliminate them for good, I'm hosting a free webinar where I walk you through the entire framework. The link is in the show notes. Go ahead and register, and I'll see you there. Welcome back to the Health Decoded podcast. I'm glad you're here today. My name's Dr. Alessi, and today we're going to talk about something that sits at the very core of what we do. This is a program that a majority of our patients go through, often as the very first thing. It's called our Repair and Clear program. And I want to be very upfront with you. This episode is not a sales pitch. This is me trying to explain, because too many people come to us having tried a million things that didn't work. And the reason they didn't work is that no one ever explained why we do things in a specific order or what's actually happening in the body when we do them. So today, I'm going to walk through the science, 3 distinct phases, 6 weeks, and a framework for understanding why, when you stop fighting your body and start supporting it, everything starts to work better, including, yes, your weight and weight loss. So let's get right into it. The first piece is I want to talk about why detox, and I'll air quote that, is a real thing, and really why the word got ruined and watered down. So let's start by really getting into, the second you hear the word detox, most people are going to picture a juice cleanse that someone's selling on Instagram or some 3-day fast with cayenne pepper water. That's not what I'm talking about. That version of detox is largely theater. What we're talking about is actual physiological change. And here's the real concept. Every single day, your body is exposed to compounds that it has to process and eliminate. Some of these come from the outside. Pesticide residue on food, chemicals in your personal care products, pollutants in the air, medications you may be on, food additives. Some are generated internally, such as byproducts of normal cellular metabolism, hormones that need to be broken down and cleared, and inflammatory compounds. Your body has an extraordinary built-in system for handling this. The liver is the primary processing plant. The kidneys are the filters, and then the gut is the elimination piece. Your skin is also involved through sweating. And this isn't fringe medicine. This is actually just standard human physiology. The problem isn't that the system doesn't exist. The problem is that the system can get overwhelmed. And when it does, it doesn't just stop working, it slows down. It backs up. Compounds that were supposed to be processed and expelled stay in circulation longer than they should. Some get stored in fat tissue and connective tissue because the body is essentially saying, I'll deal with this later. That later does have a cost. When the liver's detox pathways are sluggish, you see it in the energy levels, hormonal imbalance, skin issues, brain fog, and stubborn weight that doesn't move despite reasonable effort. These are not separate problems. They're often symptoms of the same underlying bottleneck. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The liver processes toxins in two distinct chemical stages called phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. Phase 1 converts fat-soluble toxins into intermediate compounds using enzymes. Phase 2 then takes those intermediates and binds them to other molecules, such as amino acids, sulfur compounds, glutathione, to make them water-soluble so that your body can excrete them. Here's the catch. If phase 1 is running, but phase 2 is sluggish, then the phase 1 intermediates, which are often more reactive than the original toxins themselves, will begin to accumulate. This is actually worse than if you hadn't started the process at all. This is why you can't just throw supplements at somebody and call it a detox, because sequences and support matter. Our Repair and Clear program is built around that reality. It's designed to support both phases in sequence in a way that the body can actually use. But before we even get to the liver, you have to talk about the gut, because the gut is not just the front door, it's the security system. The gut is your body's first line of defense and where most programs start too late. So let me describe what your gut is actually doing, because most people have simplified the picture of it. Food goes in, nutrients come out, waste gets excreted. While that's true, it's a massive understatement. The gastrointestinal tract is a 25-foot long tube lined with a single layer of epithelial cells. These are called mucosal cells. These cells are basically your border control. They decide what gets absorbed into the body and what doesn't. The connections between these cells are called tight junctions, and they're supposed to be, as the name implies, tight. Only small, properly digested nutrient particles pass through under normal circumstances. But here's what happens when that barrier is compromised. Those tight junctions begin to loosen, and when they loosen, things that have no business getting into your bloodstream, such as partially digested food, bacterial fragments, inflammatory compounds, they start getting through. Your immune system, which is heavily concentrated in the gut lining, encounters these foreign particles and begins to mount a response. This isn't just a minor inconvenience. That response, that chronic low-grade activation, is now understood to be a major driver of systemic inflammation. And systemic inflammation is implicated in everything from autoimmune conditions to metabolic dysfunction to mood disorders and anxiety. The gut lining also plays a direct role in liver burden. Every substance absorbed from the gut travels first to the liver through what's called the portal circulation. So if the gut barrier is compromised and letting through compounds it shouldn't, the liver is the first organ to take the hit. This is why we always address the gut before we address the liver. You cannot effectively support liver detox if the gut is still dumping inflammatory compounds into the portal circulation. You're basically filling the bucket faster than you can empty it. So weeks 2 and 3 of our Repair and Clear program are dedicated entirely to this. The intestinal support phase, we call it. The dietary protocol during this phase is strict and specific. We eliminate the primary known dietary triggers: gluten, dairy, soy, refined sugars, alcohol, nightshade vegetables, legumes, and most grains. Not because we believe everyone is permanently intolerant to all of these, but because these are the most common contributors to intestinal irritation and immune activation. And when someone's gut is already compromised, we need to remove every variable we can while we're actively supporting the lining's recovery. What you eat during this phase is equally important. Organic vegetables, quality proteins, fermented foods to support your microbiome, healthy fats, and you eat frequently. This isn't a fasting program because fasting actually elevates cortisol, and cortisol is catabolic to the gut lining. We're trying to repair, not stress. Blood sugar stability during this phase is not minor detail either. The microbiome, which is the community of bacteria, fungi, and other organisms living within your gut, this also factors heavily here. A healthy gut microbiome does things that your own cells cannot. It synthesizes vitamins. It produces short-chain fatty acids that fuel the gut lining itself, and it competes against pathogenic organisms for real estate. When the microbiome is disrupted by poor diet, antibiotic use, chronic stress, or infections, that competition gets lost. So supporting microbial diversity during this phase is a non-negotiable part of the approach. By the time someone finishes weeks 2 and 3, the goal is a gut lining that is better sealed, less inflamed, and not actively dumping fuel onto the liver's fire. And so now we're ready to talk about the next phase, which is the liver support phase. This is where detoxification gets done right. And so that's when you proceed into weeks 4, 5, and 6, where we're supporting the liver. And the diet shifts here in a very deliberate way. Again, this program is a combination of things strung together in a sequence. And so the 5-stage dietary progression of this phase is designed to do something very specific. It gradually modulates the load on the detox pathways while systemically supporting the nutrients and cofactors those pathways require to function. Remember when I said earlier about phase 1 and phase 2? So phase 1 is enzyme driven. It uses a family of enzymes called cytochrome P450 enzymes, and phase 2 requires specific amino acids and micronutrients to run these conjugation reactions. Things like glutathione, taurine, glycine, sulfur compounds. These are the raw materials. If you run phase 1 without adequate phase 2 support, you create more reactive intermediates and more oxidative stress. The dietary protocol during this phase is designed to ensure those raw materials are available. And the phase structure, moving from a broader allowed food list through a more restricted window and then back out, is intentional. It allows the body to mobilize stored toxins, process them through pathways that are now being actively supported, and then excrete them. It's not arbitrary. It actually mirrors how the biology is supposed to work. There's also an important point about fat tissue here. Many persistent toxins, environmental chemicals, hormonal metabolites, certain pharmaceutical byproducts are lipophilic, meaning they're fat soluble. They accumulate in adipose tissue specifically because the body uses fat as a long-term storage depot for compounds that it can't immediately process. When someone loses weight, they release these stored compounds back into circulation. This is well documented in literature, and it's one reason why rapid, aggressive weight loss can sometimes make people feel worse, not better. If the detox pathways aren't supported during that process, you're liberating stored toxins faster than the liver can handle them. This is a key piece of our philosophy around weight loss, which I want to actually address real quick. So the weight loss conversation that we actually need to talk about is people come to us wanting to lose weight. That's true. And it's a legitimate goal, but I want to challenge you on the framing most people bring with them. The conventional model of weight loss treats the body like a simple accounting equation. Calories in, calories out, adjust the deficit. And while energy balance is real and it does matter and it is something we address, that model alone fails to explain why two people can eat the same diet and get dramatically different results, because it fails to explain why someone can be doing everything right and still not lose weight. And it definitely fails to explain why some people have metabolic resilience that seems to evaporate once their health deteriorates. Here's how we think about it. If the body's primary drive is not thinness, it's safety and survival. When the body is inflamed, when the gut barrier is compromised, when the liver is overburdened, when hormones are dysregulated because the systems that process and clear them are backed up, the body will be in a defense state. It's allocating resources towards management of perceived internal crisis. Fat storage in that context is not a character flaw. It's often a physiological strategy. The body is storing excess lipophilic toxins in the fat. It holds on to weight as a buffer when cortisol is chronically elevated. And thus, insulin resistance, which is the impaired ability to get glucose into the cells, is deeply intertwined with inflammatory signaling. When inflammatory cytokines block insulin receptor function, you get elevated blood glucose and a body that is increasingly efficient at storing fat and inefficient at burning it. So the question we ask is not how do we force the body to lose weight? The question is, what is the body defending against, and how do we remove that burden so it no longer needs to defend? When you seal the gut, when you reduce dietary inflammatory triggers, when you support the liver's ability to clear accumulated compounds and process hormones efficiently, when you bring down systemic inflammation, the body's threat perception drops. Cortisol regulation improves, insulin sensitivity improves, the hormonal signals that govern appetite and fat metabolism, such as leptin, ghrelin, and adiponectin, they start working the way they're supposed to. Weight loss becomes a downstream effect of a body that is functioning well, rather than a battle fought against a body that has poor function. And so I'm not promising that this program is a weight loss program. What I'm saying is that for patients who've struggled with weight despite reasonable effort, removing the underlying physiological burden is often what finally allows for meaningful change to happen. And that's a fundamentally different conversation than just counting calories. And, the main piece that most programs are going to skip entirely is what I want to talk about next, which is the intro week, or what we call like the priming week. Because I've mostly been talking about weeks 2 through 6, which is the gut and the liver. But I want to go back to the first week because it's actually my favorite part of this program, and it's where most people will overlook. Week 1 is what we call the baseline immune support phase. We don't implement any dietary restrictions in this phase. The focus is on reducing systemic inflammation and priming the immune system before we ask the gut and the liver to do a bunch of hard work. Why does this matter? Well, think about what we're asking the body to do. We're about to impose significant dietary restrictions, mobilize stored toxins, and put the gut and liver through a supported but demanding process. If you walk right into that while the immune system is dysregulated and inflammation is already high, you're starting in a deficit. There's a concept in functional medicine and exercise physiology called readiness. Before you train, you warm up. Before you impose a physiological demand, you need to prepare the system. And week 1 is that preparation. We use specific things: turmeric, resveratrol, vitamin D. These are not random choices. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is one of the most extensively studied natural compounds for its role in modulating NF-κB, which is a master regulator of inflammatory signaling. Resveratrol supports mitochondrial function and has demonstrated activity in supporting cellular resilience. Vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it's actually more like a hormone with receptors throughout the immune system, the gut epithelium, and the liver. Chronic vitamin D insufficiency is endemic in our population and actually has documented effects on both gut barrier integrity and immune regulation, and that's why it's a key piece of everything we do. By the time someone finishes their first week and moves into the intestinal support phase, the inflammatory environment has been modulated. The immune system has more support behind it, and the program's downstream phases are more likely to work. For patients on our comprehensive plan, there are additional supports for antioxidant defense during this week. Glutathione pathway is specifically enhanced. Glutathione is your body's master antioxidant, and it's central to that phase 2 liver detox. Proactively supporting its availability before the detox phase begins is just based on good science. Now, you're probably wondering, is this for me? Who should do this? And who should actually not do this? Maybe have a conversation first, because again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. But before I close, let me say something practical. This program is foundational to our practice because the underlying physiology it addresses, things like gut barrier function, liver detox capacity, systemic inflammation, microbiome health, these are issues that are relevant to almost every chronic health concern that we see. autoimmunity, hormone imbalance, fatigue, cognitive impairment, metabolic dysfunction, and weight resistance. But relevant to almost everyone is not the same as right for everyone right now. If you're on medications, this program does not replace them, and it's not designed to. We run this alongside your existing care. The dietary changes are significant and should be disclosed to any provider that you're obviously working with, because dietary changes can affect medication absorption and efficiency. So if you have a history of significant digestive conditions, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, or severe gastroparesis, the specifics of how we run this program may need to be modified. And so that's a conversation, not a barrier. It's just we need more information. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, not the time for this type of program, because mobilized toxins can cross the placental barrier, enter breast milk, and that's a risk we just don't take. If you've tried restrictive programs before and found that they were psychologically destabilizing, that matters to us because it's worth preparing and getting ready for something like this. The dietary phase of this program is strict intentionally, but it's not about restriction just for that piece. Having clarity on why is going to make a significant difference in completing something like this. What I will say is this: in over a decade of clinical practice in functional medicine, this 6-week program is the one that we return to consistently because the results are consistent. Patients come out on the other end with better energy, clear thinking, improved digestion, reduced inflammation markers, and yes, often meaningful weight change. Not because we forced anything, not because weight loss was even the goal, but because we removed what was in the way and got the body closer to a state of balance. And when the body knows what to do, it has a remarkable capacity for self-regulation. Our job is to stop burdening it and start supporting it. So that's the Repair and Clear program, 6 weeks, 3 intentional phases built on real physiology and a real respect for how the body actually works. If you're listening to this and this resonates, if you've been dealing with fatigue, gut issues, stubborn weight, hormone irregularities, brain fog, or just a general sense that your body is not operating the way it used to or that you want it to, this might be the right conversation to start. You can always reach out to us. Go to ascendfunctionalhealth.com, submit a contact form with your name and how you found us. Be sure to mention this podcast. You'll get a complimentary discovery call as well as claim a free gift. We do a thorough intake process because context matters, so your history matters. We're not just going to hand you or sell you a program without understanding you first. If this was helpful, if this episode shed any light on things for you, and you can think of someone that you want to share, please share this with them. That's how we grow this conversation. That's how we help more people. And ultimately, that's how we help change more lives. Until next time, I'm Dr. Alessi with Health Decoded. Your health is in your hands.
Thank you for tuning in to Health Decoded, where we break down the truth about all things health and empower you to take charge of your well-being. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. For more resources and personalized support, visit us at alessifunctionalhealth.com and sign up for our newsletter. To hear your questions answered live on the show, send them to ask@alessifxhealth.com. That's ask at ALESSIFXhealth.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, your health is in your hands.